This was the scene at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway at 12 noon Eastern Time. President Brian Barnhart of the Indy Racing League giving final instructions to 35-year-old Milka Dunno. She would be taking her first ever run for qualifications, 4 laps around the 2.5 miles known as Indy, as we're into day 3 of qualifying.
Qualifying for a place, at least I know with who I race. How fast can you run? How fast can you run?
Every May, the story starts on 16th Street. For almost a century, this has been the pinnacle of auto racing, where dreams become a milk-drenched reality and where hopes can disintegrate at over 200 miles an hour.
Here they come! Keep those cameras running. We could have a photo finish. Perhaps the closest finish in the history of the Indianapolis 500.
A week ago, qualifying began for this year's Indianapolis 500. And for most of pole day, it looked like Dario Franchitti would capture his first Indy pole. But two-time champion Helio Castroneves crushed Franchitti's hopes with just 3 minutes remaining. Then Tony Kanaan took his last shot on the last run of the day, only to come up short by 4/100ths of a second. Two-time champion Al Unser Jr. was bumped from the grid last week and will attempt to make the field again today. And rookie Milka Dunno returns 1 week after hitting the wall in practice. Today, she attempts to become the 3rd woman to qualify, writing another page of history at Indy.
How fast can you run?
And we welcome you live to the motor racing capital of the world, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where we're getting ready for the 3rd day of qualifying for the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500. And just like last weekend, we have absolutely perfect weather conditions. As you can see, not a cloud in the sky as we look above the pagoda at the start-finish line. When this day began, we had 11 spots still to fill. And we'll get you update on all those. Let's first show you what happened last weekend. Of course, the front row with Helio Castroneves holding on as Tony Kanaan not quite able to bump him off the pole in that dramatic finish. And Dario Franchitti, for 5 hours he was on the pole, only to end up on the outside of row 1.
And Marty, row 2, Scott Dixon, Sam Hornish Jr., Dan Weldon. Those Target Chip Ganassi cars really expected to be on the front row and have a shot at the pole, but row 2 is where they will start.
And then we take a look at row number 3. The surprise of the first day of qualifying was Ryan Briscoe, and then the Andretti Green teammates, Danica Patrick and Marco Andretti.
And row 4, a bit of a surprise, Thomas Scheckter qualifying the first day in the top 11. A great run for that team. Michael Andretti trying to win here for his very first time. And 2001 pole sitter Scott Sharp is on the outside of row 4.
And of course, Sharp was the fastest of second-day qualifiers. That's why he gets the number 12 spot. He's joined by his teammate Jeff Simmons, Ed Carpenter, and AJ Foyt Racing's Darren Manning.
And row number 6, 2004 Indianapolis 500 winner Buddy Rice is on the inside. Kotski Masura with a great run, and AJ Foyt the 4th running for Vision Racing.
And we take a look at row number 7, Vitor Mira with Davey Hamilton and Sarah Fisher, the second of our 3 potential female runners already qualified. And then Buddy Lazier, the 22nd and last qualifier from last weekend at 221.380. All right, let's go back to 12 noon and take a look at Milka Dunno's run. She has gotten the instructions from Brian Barnhart, and as she was ready to pull out, you got to imagine. You remember your rookie run? I mean, how hard was your heart pumping?
Like it was yesterday. You can qualify anywhere in the world, even Le Mans for the 24-hour race over there. This is someplace special, Marty.
You get 2 warm-up laps, then it's 4 timed laps, and it's the average of those 4 laps that determine your starting position. Nowhere else in the world is it done like it is here at Indianapolis. You know, we mentioned the fact that Milka had a crash a week ago. Let's take you back to that moment. Everybody's been wondering, how will she react?
Well, the key thing is to get back in the car and get yourself going again. Now, she was out for a couple of days while they repaired this car. As you can see, just a little high going through turn one. The back end comes around. That's when we call the car is loose, and it hits that safer barrier on the outside of the wall. She got out of the car, was cleared to drive just within about an hour, but had to wait for the car to be repaired.
Now, she's still on her warm-up laps here, and you were impressed with she knew what went wrong with that crash.
I was impressed even at Kansas in speaking to her. When they made a change to the car, she could come in and tell them what the change had done to the car, the way that it was feeling for her. That means that she's really in tune with things. And that means, Marty, that the world is going slow for you when you're in the race car. They call about being in the zone, and really that's what you have to be. Impressive for her with her sports car background that she was able to sort of catch on to that, not only there, but here at Indianapolis also, where speeds are quite higher.
Well, one of her degrees is in nautical engineering, so I mean, she is a very intelligent young lady, and the question would be, would she be able to forget about the crash and put 4 good, consistent laps together? And she was first out, and you think that was a good strategy? Don't wait, don't let it hang on?
Well, you know, you want to get in the car and get that green flag as quickly as possible. And here she goes. She takes the green flag to start her very first lap. And you asked if this qualifying here at Indianapolis is difficult. At most places you go to, you qualify for 1 or 2 laps. And, Marty, they take the best lap out of those 2 to put your selection where you will be actually on the grid. Here at Indianapolis, as you mentioned a moment ago, it's a total of those 4 laps. So you cannot make a mistake in any one of those 4 laps if you want to get a great, consistent time. That's what puts the pressure on a driver here in Indianapolis, is perfection for 4 laps, and that's difficult. Even Rick Mears says that's a hard thing to do.
One of the things, you know, drivers talk about turn-in points and exit points. What do you look for when everything is painted white around this track?
And that's difficult here. See, you're going down this 5/8 of a mile straightaway right now. She'll be entering in there, as you see, 222, 223 miles an hour. Your goal is not to take your foot off the throttle, drive into the turn, get down to the apex by the white line, let the car drift out to the wall so you're not scrubbing off too much speed, and you have to do that 4 times a lap, obviously, and that's sometimes a very difficult thing to do. Easier said than done.
And her first lap, as you see there, 219.5 miles an hour. Not a super fast run, but a good consistent start.
And that's the thing, as we mentioned a moment ago, consistency says that she's in control of the car, and the more consistent the run is, and that makes the engineers happy and the team owner happy, because they say they have somebody that really understands what they're doing inside the cockpit. Here again, down over the yard of bricks, into turn 1, you let the car flare up to the wall, come down to the white line, we call that the apex, and flare out to the wall. Now, that's something she wasn't doing when she came here last week. She wasn't comfortable with the car. She wasn't letting the car come out to the wall. Difficult to do at 215 miles an hour, but she has Pancho Carter, who's run here many years, a great champion. He's the driver coach for Milka, and also the spotter. He's really been helping her understand what she needs to do on this racetrack.
You noticed again, 219 miles an hour, and that's what she was practicing at this morning. That's what we were talking about as far as consistency. She's not stepping over that line, and she's being very consistent here in the qualifying run.
I think they're smart. I think they know the time segment they need to be able to get into this field. And you know something, if you went a half a mile an hour quicker or a mile an hour quicker, you might be up 1 row. But when you're qualifying on day 3, that extra row is not going to do a whole lot for you. The goal, the big goal for them right now is to get her in the race, which we believe that they may have done, and then to get her experience running the Indianapolis 500.
Her third lap, a little bit slower, 219, though, still in that same range as she was into her 4th lap, heading for turn number 4. And again, good consistent line, as here she was. She could breathe again at this point as she takes the checkered flag and completes her first ever qualifying attempt here at Indianapolis. And again, the 4th lap would be in the 219 range, which would give her a 219 average for the 4-lap run. So Milka Dunno does herself and her Citgo team proud, as she is, at least for the moment, in the Indianapolis 500. As she did the cool-down lap, and after she got out of the car, Vince Welch caught up with her in the pit lane. Vince?
Well, Milka, how did you feel during that 4-lap qualifying run?
I was feeling very good. We have a very good car. The team worked for have a good car for qualifying. Still, we can go fast, but we didn't need for this qualifying. We were wanted to be to have a safety car for qualifying, and for the race, I think we are going to have a very good car for race.
How about you? How did you feel during that 4-lap run?
it was very, yes, with a lot of tension, with a lot of pressure, because it's just Indy. I was trying to do the best to control all the pressure, all the scene, because everybody was looking what I was doing. But we have a good run.
How relieved are you that it's over, at least for now, the first qualifying run? How relieved are you that it's over?
I think we were a little bit, but I don't know. We're still working. We think about what the others are doing, but we see, no. The conditions change all the time. If we have to go again, we go again. But
How comfortable are you in their car at this point?
it was good. It was good. Yes, it was very good. We have a good car.
How about you from a driver's perspective? How comfortable are you in this different type of car? Even though you ran at Kansas City, this is a different place.
It's something that I adjusting every time. No, it's just a process. I learn fast, but it's just something that you just need to adjust. This track is really difficult. It's really fast. Change all the time, and you are crazy because you have a car for the morning, but later maybe it's different situation. But each time I feel much better. No, each time I feel more confident, learn more about the other drivers, everything here. I think with more time, I will be completely okay.
Thank you, Milka.
Thank you.
And I think you'll have a hard time wiping that smile off her face. You notice all the tie-dyed shirts. You saw that groovy day at the Speedway. Well, it's a throwback day here, and it's reminiscing over the 70s. And you have no idea what we may see later on. A lot of people with some wild get-ups. Along with Scott Goodyear, Marty Reed, glad that you're with us. Were you impressed with her run?
I was, because it is very, very difficult here at Indianapolis to do those 4 laps as we talked about. It's one thing to go out there and get 1 good lap when you've got 2 laps for qualifying, but putting 4 together when you're the only race car on the track and everybody can hear you out there, including your crew. If you lift off the throttle a little bit in turn 1, they go, what was the problem there? You need to be on the gas to get that good speed. Difficult to hear at Indianapolis, and as I said, Rick Mears said it's the most tense moment when you're driving a race car here in Indy, and I think everybody feels that, whether you're a veteran or whether you're a rookie. But you asked me earlier if I can remember driving here as a rookie. I remember sitting in that car and getting the instructions to go out because the pressure is on you. You're here at Indianapolis. I mean, that's one thing that you only feel once, and she hopes she doesn't have to do it again here today.
Well, we'll find out. We can tell you, that we have 6 spots still remaining, so that means 5 have gone in without giving it all away. We'll tell you Milka is not the slowest. So we'll bring you up to speed on all the others that have made their runs, and we still have 6 spots to decide. And there was the congratulations and the big sigh of relief from 35-year-old Milka Dunno. ESPN's presentation of the Indianapolis 500 qualifying brought to you by CiCi's Pizza, where you can enjoy our endless buffet of pizza, pasta, salad, and desserts. And by Right Guard Sport, powerful odor and wetness protection. Never get caught off guard. And back here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we are under practice conditions as no one is quite ready to take on the heat of the day. It will get cooler as the sun begins to set in the west, and we'll have a mad scramble, I think, just like we did last week. Let's get caught up on some of the stories that have unfolded so far today. Let's bring in our 3 pit reporters. Jack Arute.
Well, Marty, a week ago, we focused all of our attention on the battle for the pole position for the Indianapolis 500, and it was a dandy one, and it was almost a big upset in the final run of the day. But today we focus, in my opinion, on a more difficult task, and that is to make it in to the final field of 33. With less than 2 hours to go, there are only 6 spots remaining before bumping would begin. For these drivers, it's an opportunity to make or break an IndyCar career. Let's check in with Brianne Pettigo.
Thanks, Jack. Earlier today, John Herb's crew waved off his first qualifying attempt after a fuel pickup problem slowed him way down on his 4th lap, which raised the question, was there some confusion about the new qualifying format? Did they not realize that by waving it off, that still counted as one of his 3 attempts for the day? We know now that's not the case. They were simply trying to evade lost time going through tech. They thought that was precious time they needed to figure out the problem with the fuel cell and get him back out for 2 more attempts today. Vince?
Well, Brian, you talk about pressure of making this race, the Indianapolis 500. How big is the Indianapolis 500? To what lengths will someone go to make this field? PDM Racing and team owner Paul Diatlovich. Diatlovich mortgaged his house to finance this team's attempt to make the field with hired gun driver Jimmy Kite. In a sport of behemoths like Penske, Ganassi, and Andretti, PDM is the little guy putting it all on the line here this weekend. Z-Line Designs has since come on board to provide some financial assistance, but PDM and Kite are still seeking the speed that will ultimately determine their fate. So, Marty, when you talk about pressure, no team is feeling the pressure quite like PDM today.
And they've felt it before, Vince. If you remember, the first time they paired up, it was 2002, and on bump day, the gun went off when Jimmy Kite was the next in line, and they did not make the field. So as we come back outside from the garage area, the yellow flag has come out here at the Speedway. It's gone a little bit quiet. They're doing a track inspection, no damage or anything, so everybody will pull in, and they're doing a lot of full tank runs for those cars that are qualified. But let's show you what's happened so far. You know that Milka Dunno has made a successful attempt. Let's pick it up with Roger Yasukawa in the third Dreyer and Reinbold entry in his first attempt today.
You know, Marty, this was really impressive for a driver that shows up once a year to come here and race at the Indianapolis 500. I spoke with Roger earlier this morning, and he said, you know, something, it all came back to me very quickly, but I was impressed with the way he got out. His warm-up lap was very strong at 218 miles an hour for qualifying. Limited track time so far here this month. You get into the car as a second weekend qualifier, as he's done. Pressure is on you to perform. Pressure is on you not to make a mistake, because if you throw the car against the wall now, there's no way you'll have it repaired in time for the race.
Yasukawa attempting to make his fourth Indianapolis 500. He started 11th back in 2003 in his rookie year. That's been his best starting position. He was 12th in 2004 and 17th in 2005. Did not race last year.
You know, like many drivers, Roger started off in karting in Southern California, and in 1991 won the state championship for go-karts, and he went through the usual things like Formula Vauxhall when he was in England, the Barber Dodge Series, and also the Toyota Atlantic Series, and started in Indy cars in 2003 and ran pretty well that season. I think he finished 12th in the points, if I can recall. A pretty strong run, but we've not heard a lot from him in the last couple of years, with the exception of showing up here to Indy to really make everybody realize just how good of a driver he is.
Well, and you saw that first lap at 2:22, and remember, he came out right after Milka Dunno, and she ran at 2:19 for her 4-lap average. So Roger making a bit of a statement, and you got to remember, 2 years here in 2003 and 2004, he finished 10th in the Indianapolis 500. So he races very well when he gets into the field.
Very smart driver, seemed very calm about what he was talking about this morning. When I talked to him about what his plans were, just getting qualified and then getting ready for the race. He's already done some full tank running, so maybe another good finish for him. He's already won over $2 million here in prize money at Indianapolis. We'll see what happens this year.
So as he comes by for the third lap, again, the first two at 2:22 and change. So he was easily, at this pace, going to take over the top spot here of the third day qualifiers. In fact, had he been able to make this run on the second day, he'd have been in the middle of row 6.
You know, and as a driver, that goes through your mind just a little bit when you're out there thinking, boy, I wish I was around last week, because we could have actually got a little bit further up into the grid. But you know something, the major thing though is that he's in the field, and now he has the opportunity to set up for a race pace to get himself ready for the biggest race in the world.
So out of turn 4 here on lap number 4, and Roger Yasukawa looks at the checkered flag in a very strong effort. Took over the 22nd spot. That was the first one up for grabs today. You can't get any higher today, as he turns in 4 laps at 222.654 miles an hour. So a great run for Roger Yasukawa from Los Angeles, California. When we return, the story of John Herb. You heard Brianne talk about the fact they waved off a run. We'll talk about the strategy and what that implies. Stay with us.
Good morning, class. This is day 3 of qualifying. Anybody have any questions?
Mr. Weldon, how is today's qualifying different than last weekend's?
Okay, last weekend we were basically going for positions 1 through 22. You're now competing for spots 23 through 33, But there's also extra cars. There's some people that show up later on in the month just to try and qualify for the race on this particular day.
I'm confused.
It gets a little confusing. I'm still confused. But it's spots 23 through 33, so it's the last 11 spots to be filled for the field.
Thank you, Mr. Weldon.
And we thank Dan for helping explain how qualifying works. Here it is in its entirety. Of course, pole day last week on Saturday. We filled positions 1 through 11, and boy, there was some great drama. And we had some more drama on day number 2 as we saw some bumping in positions 12 through 22. And today, we'll fill those last 11 spots like Dan was telling the class. And then tomorrow, it's strictly bump day. The slowest speed in the field will be the first one bumped from the field if a car can go faster over 4 laps here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Remember, you get 3 attempts per car per day. Right now, the yellow is out. No activity on the track. You can see the Delphi safety team is doing a track inspection, and it doesn't look like anybody is in the line presenting for a run. So they'll go back to practice as, again, the sun has been brilliant today, and we're not used to this. In fact, we're worried that the weather's going to change next weekend when we really need it to be good for race day. All right, let's bring you up to date on John Herb's story. You were with us before. You heard Brianne Pettigo talk about the fact the team waved off an attempt. Let's take you back to the run, because the first 3 laps of this run were very solid, and then we found out that he had a fuel pressure problem, and we'll see that it does affect the last lap. But as he went into this run, remember, this is one of 4 drivers who have crashed so far here in the month of May. In fact, John was the very first one to do it in the first week of practice. They put this car back together, and he was running some very good laps in practice, and here on his first lap.
And if you watch the mile an hour there at the bottom of the screen, 225 just going into the turn 3 there, that's not bad. He should be able to see somewhere possibly around 220 average. But he ran up a couple of laps, and we thought he was going to actually take the run as it was, because the first 3 were not too bad, as we're going to watch along here and see. And then they seemed to make some different decisions on what they would do here as far as taking the run is concerned. But as he starts to head down here towards turn 1, sees 225, 226 again. So the top speed there again seems to be the area that we have been seeing in cars that have been running here on the second weekend. The front row sitters, as we saw last week, Marty, were all running around 230 miles an hour going down into the turns.
Now, you notice that 220 average, that would have put him ahead of Milka Dunno, but behind Roger Yasukawa, but still solidly in the field, because we don't think the bump spot's going to be anywhere near 220.
Well, we thought that originally last week it might be around that number, but now from seeing what we've seen this week and so far today, thinking more maybe in the 18.5 to 19 range, and it's all going to really just depend on the weather conditions and how the drivers and teams have their cars set up for their qualifying run, whether it's today or whether it's tomorrow. So, the key thing is we're getting to the system now where you can take 3 runs per car to put in the field per day. You almost, if you've got a run going that's not too bad, you almost want to just go ahead and take it, because you do get that opportunity to take the car to the field and requalify it if you wish to, or if you get bumped.
And again, you saw that he had another good solid lap on lap number 2. And we thought that this was looking like it was going to be a nice, smooth run. He wasn't erratic. The car wasn't getting away from him, wasn't loose, wasn't pushing to the wall. Looked like it was well balanced. And then all of a sudden, after this lap, in lap number 3, where again he was very consistent, the wheels started to come apart, so to speak.
Well, and we didn't know why, but after a while we just seemed to find out. But he's only got 1 start here before, where he qualified 18th and ended up having a accident lap 104, ended up finishing 27th. So his goal there again is just to get into the field, to be able to get some understanding of how this race unfolds, because it really does a different job to you when you're driving a race car for 500 miles here at Indy versus, say, going to a 200-mile race or a 300-mile race anywhere else in Indy cars or any other type of cars that you're running. So here you see him coming down here for the final run, but the yellow flag was out on the right-hand side, and he slowed down before he got to the line, and then they did not accept that lap 4. Now the engine's still running, you can hear it, and then that was the weird thing about it, and I would have thought that they would have taken that.
Well, and if you notice, even with the 214, he was still at a 218 average, which would have put him into the field, and yes, he could have taken it, and we thought he would.
I think he should have taken it, because you never know, something might happen to the car again if they try to get out there and qualify.
All right, so that's John Herb's situation. They're going to have to come back and try again. What about John Andretti? Well, he was next to come out. We'll show you his run when we return to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Tomorrow is Bump Day here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we'll be on with you at ABC with the greatest spectacle of racing. It concludes at 1 p.m. Eastern, and that telecast presented by GoDaddy.com, and then at ESPN2 at 5 Eastern. And that's all tomorrow here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Cars are on track right now for practice as we're waiting for someone to get up the courage to fight the temperatures, as there is Jeff Simmons coming down the front straightaway. It's still a little too warm for some of these cars. They don't want to go out and waste a run. Let's get caught up in some of the activities going down trackside. Let's bring in Vince Welch.
That's exactly right, Marty. In fact, Playa-Del Racing with Jacques Lazier and his teammate Phil Giebler are going to go out as soon as the track temperature cools. If you're a fan from the state of Indiana and you don't have a particular allegiance to a driver, maybe you pick Jacques Lazier. His 21 car has the Indiana Ice logo, one of the local hockey teams, the Indiana Fever from the WNBA, the Indiana Pacers logo on the car as well. So if you're a fan of the state of Indiana, maybe Jacques Lazier is the guy you're rooting for. And Jacques, what are you waiting on? How much cooler do you need the track to be before you go out and give it a qualifying run?
I think all we need is about a degree or two and just see that the track temperature is going down. Once we do that, we've been chasing a mechanical gremlin this morning with the front wing, and I think we figured that out. So we'll go back out there and just kind of get the car where we feel we have a good balance on it, and then we'll put it in line and put it in the show.
You've kind of been going right up to a line that is comfortable. You go beyond that line, it's been uncomfortable. How daring do you be, or do you take this car in a qualifying attempt?
Honestly, I don't think we're going to get too crazy with it. We'll just, I think we'll just go out there and just try to put 4 laps together, comfortable laps, and put it in the show.
Jacques Lazier, once he gets it in the show, he can certainly drive it. Jack?
Well, Vince, that's the key, getting it in the show. And this past Thursday, Stefan Gregoire thought he would have the Chastain's Motorsports car to get in the show. He was the fastest that day, and then after setting that fast time, he crashed. What looked to be an innocent crash ended up taking Stefan Gregoire out of the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500 and any hope of qualification. He was transferred to Methodist Hospital, where he was diagnosed with a fractured back. So enter the super son. Roberto Moreno was called by Chastain Motorsports, and presently Moreno is on his way out on the racetrack, as you see, trying to build his car up to speed. Moreno last raced here 8 years ago, guys. He's about to get his U.S. citizenship. He says he wants to change his name from Roberto Moreno to Bobby Moore. Both titles are on that car.
And Jack, of course, Roberto, no stranger to the Speedway. He has started twice here at Indianapolis in 1986 and 1999. And saw Stefan Gregoire in the pit area, and you're saying, wait a minute, he's got to fracture his back. Why would he be here? It's just one of those, you've had several back injuries. You know what it's like.
I understand he's just got a slight chip on one of the vertebrae, which would not allow him to sit in a race car, because if he crashed again, obviously he'd put himself at risk. But he has a back brace on that allows him to walk around, and then he has an opportunity to then get to a situation where hopefully he heals well enough to drive in the future. And Jack, you have more?
Yeah, in fact, we're going to visit with Stefan for a minute. Scott Goodyear was referencing the fact that although it's a fractured back, it's all a case of the discomfort that you would be subjected to during the 500 miles. How difficult is it to sit out with a car that you know was fast enough to make it into this field?
Oh, it's very disappointing. That should not have happened. I mean, it's a little bit of a mistake on my part. It was a windy day. It's a shame. I didn't think, I mean, I was too much confidence, I guess, too much excitement. We had enough speed. Brian Barnard even came to talk to us and said to us a few days earlier and said, take it easy, you've got plenty of speed. And I guess with windy conditions, we should have been more careful. So very disappointed. I mean, I was really looking forward to the race. Daryl Soppy, we worked on the race setup earlier on, when we first showed up to the track. And so I was very confident for a good race. So.
Stefan, for a driver like you trying to crack back into IndyCar Series competition for the full schedule, missing the Indianapolis 500 does what to your career?
Well, I mean, it's not good. especially when you're 38. So the thing is, Tom Chastain wants to come back next year, so hopefully I will be there again next year to try to do it properly, you know. So,
Fellas, that's the difficult prospect on the final day of qualifications. For someone like Stefan Gregoire, wait till next year.
Yeah, and it is such a tough break, especially when, as you said, Jack, the crash looked so innocent. It looked like, man, it was just going to be a brush with the wall, but the way the contact was, it just sent all that vibration right up through the cockpit, and he's out. There's Roberto Moreno. He has gone as fast as 2:18 today in practice. Stay with us. When we come back, it will be John Andretti on track.
Steady as I quicken pace, then I'm wide open. How fast can you run?
Well, we're running pretty fast at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Look at this. We have got about, close to 10 cars out on the track right now. They're practicing as we're waiting for the next car to make an attempt to qualify. And it's a freight train with Andretti Green Racing up front. There's Marco, followed by Tony Kanaan. There's Dario Franchitti. And I think one more car. Is that Michael at the back? Can't really tell from here. But the first three starting to pull away. So the freight train, no, the 9 car of Scott Dixon out there. So there is Scott Dixon, the 4th car in line. Let's take you back a little bit earlier today. We mentioned Marco Andretti leading this freight train. His cousin, John, went out for his attempt. Now he is on his warm-up lap, and you'll notice that the bright yellow Camping World Dallara getting up to speed quickly. In fact, John was the quickest yesterday in practice of the non-qualified cars at 2:22 and change.
You know, we talked about how impressive it is when you see drivers come here and they've been away for a year, like we spoke about with Roger Yasukawa, to get back in a car after just being away for 12 months. But I'll tell you something, this was a story that I did not think was going to work out, simply because John had been running stock cars for quite a few years, and yes, he has a wealth of experience in all types of different cars and midgets and stock cars, endurance cars, and what have you. So we see him come down now to take the green flag to start his 4-lap run. But Marty, I got to be honest with you, I just didn't know from being out of the seat for such a long period of time if he would adapt to a single-seater car, which I think was his love when he really started motor racing. But, you know, in the end result, 2 wins in the NASCAR series, once at the Daytona 400 and then one at Martinsville. He had success over there, maybe not as much as he would like, but maybe the question is, would he love to come back to Indy cars?
Well, and it's been 13 years since he ran here at the Speedway. Back then, they were turbocharged cars. You and I talked to him after his first practice run, and he was amazed at how much downforce these cars had compared to that model.
Well, back then, we also had a lot more horsepower, about 650 horsepower now out of these 3.5-liter engines. And yes, we're running on ethanol fuel, 100% ethanol fuel this year. I say 100%, it's 98% ethanol and 2% gas. And in that situation, the cars are putting out 650 horsepower, give or take. Honda does not give you very specific numbers with that. But in the turbocharged days, running on 100% methanol fuel, we used to see upwards of 850 horsepower, maybe even a little bit more back in the engine war days. And the cars are wild to drive. No traction control, just very hard on the gas, and you would really just scare yourself going around here. And these cars themselves, not easy to drive. And I'd like to say that to everybody when you're going 215, 20 miles an hour. Like, for instance, now he's heading into turn 1, Marty. You've got to get that turn in right now, and you can't miss by 6 or 7 inches. Otherwise, you're not going to come out the end of turn 1 on a very safe manner.
And he was extremely consistent on his 4-lap run. Every single lap, as you can see, 221.69, 221.77. And laps 3 and 4 would be just as solid. I mean, and you got to remember, it has been, it's not only been 13 years since he raced here, but remember the versatility of John. Remember, years ago, he raced Top Fuel dragsters with Jack Clark's team.
You know, that's right. I forgot about that. I mean, I remember when he did that, I thought, gosh, I don't think I'd want to go do that. But he was very good at that time that he did that. You're absolutely right. And, you know, we talk about him right now. He's actually qualifying faster and running stronger than really the teammates did when they first came out on the very first day, too. That's very impressive.
And again, lap number 3, even quicker, 221.8 miles an hour. In fact, John, on this final lap, he would end up with the 3rd most consistent run of the month. 28 1,000th of a second difference from fastest to slowest lap. The most consistent so far this year was Ed Carpenter, 14 1,000th of a second. Roger Yasukawa's run just a little bit earlier, 18 1,000th of a second. That gives you just how good you have to be to run consistent laps. John Andretti did it, and he's in the field at 2:21.756. Let's get more from Jack Arute.
Well, Marty, as you and Scott alluded to, this is the third Panther entry. And remember when Panther was first founded, Jim Harbaugh was involved, Mike Griffin, John Barnes, Terry Lingner. They all got together along with a man by the name of Gary Pettigo. Many of you may know the last name, but Gary Pettigo was a very successful automobile dealer. And it seems only appropriate on throwback weekend here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Look who's back. Calling a strategy for the John Andretti third Panther team, Gary Pettigo. I think we have someone working with us that's named Pettigo, right?
Yes, we do. And there she is. Do you want to talk about Dad at all?
Oh, sure. Sure. It's only appropriate, right? I'm just going to get some grief from my mom since last week was Mother's Day, and I didn't say Happy Mother's Day to her. But good to have Dad back out here. I know this is his big love in life, his big passion, so it's nice to have him out. This is the 10th anniversary, I think Jack mentioned, of Panther Racing, and it is throwback night, and John Barnes is actually getting a Lifetime Achievement Award this evening from the Old Timers Club. So it's a good day for Panther to have those 3 cars in, and nice to have the whole family out here at the track.
Hey, and you tell Mom we took care of everybody. We said Happy Mother's Day across the board, so you're off the hook. All right. Cars are still practicing as Gary looks on as they're getting ready to send John out to do some full tank work. Stay with us when we come back. Al Unser Jr.'s attempt to make his 19th Indy 500. Pole sitter Elio Castroneves leads the field to the green flag at the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500. The Indianapolis 500 telecast presented by GoDaddy.com next Sunday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on ABC. Still under practice conditions here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That is Tony Kanaan. Of course, he'll start in the middle of row number 1 next Sunday as he is working some full tanks, trying to get the balance of the car based on the conditions for today. You can see he's run 46 laps and the fastest to 24.5 miles an hour. And his last lap was 222.6, and that's Michael Andretti right in front of him, so they're doing a little teamwork.
What they're looking for right now, Tony's trying to get close enough up behind Michael to see how the air off of Michael's car disturbs Tony's car when he starts to run in traffic, because obviously that's what we're going to see on race day. In qualifying last weekend and this weekend, obviously you're out there by yourself, running the car around, trying to get the thing qualified. But in this situation here, you're trying to get your car up to speed in race conditions, Marty, so you're not just so surprised with what you have when you take the green flag on race day.
And let's get more on the engine situation involving Andretti Green. Jack Arute.
Well, for all the field here, Marty, in fact, it's one of the changes over the course of the last 2 years when it went to an all-Honda power plant field. Honda leases the engines to all of the competitors. If you purchase what they call a full-month lease, like these cars that are streaking across your screen right now, you're entitled to a total of 1,200 laps up until Carb Day next Friday. If you lease for only the second week, like some of the teams we've been talking to that are trying to get in, well, you get a reduced number of laps. But for most of these teams, those laps that they are entitled to are dwindling down to a precious few. Consider the challenge for Andretti Green, for Vision Racing, and for some of these teams where they are now trying to marshal as many laps today as they possibly can, because they're only entitled to those 1,200. For some, like Vision Racing, today's going to be the last day before Carb Day that they'll turn a wheel or any left-hand turns here at Indy.
All right, Jack, thanks for the update. And yes, there are some teams that were concerned about running out of not only laps on the motor, but tires. You get 35 sets, and they've got to last you the entire month of May, so you have to budget accordingly. as these cars continue to turn lap after lap.
And Marty, you talk about budgets, you know, just for Firestone tires with that 35 sets you have, it's just over $64,000 you're going to use in tires if you run the full month's supply. And if you're running the full month here with a Honda engine lease, it's $225,000. But if you're running just for the second weekend, it now becomes $95,000. So you take that into the cost of what it costs for cars these days, and you can think about that and other expenses. It starts to add up.
Yeah, Dallara chassis will run you about $350,000, and a 05 Panos about $144,000. Let's bring in Vince Welch.
Well, guys, one of the other challenges for these race teams, I want to show you this light. As you can see, it's going to the back. Let's walk down pit lane here, and I'll show you the new light that's been put on the back of these race cars here underneath the tail wing. It was instituted just a few days before teams began practicing here for the Indianapolis 500. It has to be placed in this location, and it has to be at 90-degree angle. Now, the issue that it causes, it provides an extra 14 or 15 pounds of drag for these cars. That means it slows the cars down by a mile to about 1.2 miles per hour. So from an engineering perspective, these teams are having to figure out a way to get around the extra 15 pounds of drag and the slower temperature that's created by this safety caution light. It's certainly going to light up and then notify the driver behind this car that there's an issue on the track, whether it's yellow or red. But it's something that the teams themselves are trying to get around to make their cars a little bit quicker. Guys?
You know, it's neat that the talk about that. It's the same for everything, guys. Everybody has to have this light on there, and it's actually on the back, and it's right between the wing strut, as Vince is saying. And what a lot of teams are saying, boy, that really causes a problem for us. You know, as you see the car going down the straightaway, it's very difficult with this telestrator to really show you where that is, but we would have to maybe have it stand still. But in the back of that, those wing loops, really what happens is that it just causes that drag, as Vince is talking about. But it has to be there, Marty, because it has to be right there in front of the driver's eyes when he's sitting in front of the car.
I got a kick out of that. You were trying to draw a line at 220 miles an hour.
I was actually going with the car at the point in time. I didn't feel like I was going fast, but you know the neat thing about sitting up here, though, was like when you have a squilly and make a mistake, I don't hit the wall.
That's true. That's true. All right, nobody's hit the wall so far today. We don't want anybody hitting the wall. Let's take you back to the one last run we need to show you. It says it was Al Unser Jr. trying to make his 19th field, and here he was coming to the green flag. And he waited and did this in one of the hottest moments of the afternoon.
You know, and we were amazed by that, quite honestly, because usually when the track starts to heat up and the temperature gets hot, you know, you lose a little bit of horsepower, you lose a little bit of grip because the track is warmer, the tires slide a little bit more. But I guess that's the time that they were ready, and they went out there and started to run some reasonable, respectable laps for the heat of the day. And I was quite frankly thinking that they would wait until later in the day, like about this time right now, when the track starts to cool off, the air starts to cool off, engine makes more horsepower, and you do get a little bit more grip. The car is a little easier to drive, but give them credit for going out in the heat of the day, which will be around race time, and putting in some reasonable runs. Now, as you know, Al's been coming back here to Indianapolis for years, and what a great history they have here with the family. And the 1992 finish, every time I see Al Jr., he looks at me and I say to him, you know what? I still don't have that check you were going to send me for half of that 1992 finish. And he gives me a big laugh, you know.
There was his father, Al Unser Sr., one of 3 4-time winners of this event. A little nervous looking on. Al, yesterday in the final practice of those not qualified, was the 5th quickest at 220.3 miles an hour. There's A.J. Foyt, Super Text, taking a look at the watch saying, okay, that's good enough. We can live with that.
You know, when I think back to Al Jr., obviously the highs and the lows here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, 2 victories in 92 and 94. But remember when they were here with Penske in 1995 and the whole Penske team failed to qualify? And you could just see the stress that was on Al Jr.'s face, that it was something he never thought that would be possible, especially when you won the previous year.
Well, and remember, you're talking about the preeminent team in the history of this motor speedway, Penske Racing. And it was a surprise to everybody. Emerson Fittipaldi, of course, the other member of that team. Here came Al up on his 3rd lap, and AJ looking at the watch saying, yep, it's consistent enough. We're good. Nods his head.
And the number 50 on the car is to commemorate the 50 years that A.J. Foyt has been coming here to the Indianapolis 500, both as a driver and now as a car owner. And I read something just this week where they were asking Al if he could remember the first time that he actually met AJ, and he said, yeah, I was walking along with my dad and my Uncle Bobby and AJ, and said I was just a young little kid at that point in time, and he said I saw a puddle and I jumped in the puddle and splashed water all down AJ's legs, and AJ looked at me and he said I thought I was in trouble, and AJ just stomped back in the puddle and got me all wet, and he said that's my first memory of walking along with A.J. Foyt here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
So when Al Unser Jr. crossed the line, A.J. says, yep, we can live with that. It would put him on the inside of row number 9 at 220.876 miles an hour. He was bumped last week when he ran 220.963. That gives you an idea of the difference between second day qualifying and third day. Vince had a chance to talk to him after the run.
Is it ever easy?
No, it's never easy, but it's a heck of a lot of fun. You know, I just want to thank AJ and the whole crew. They gave me a great car, and I'm glad I'm in. So, you know, we'll start working on a race setup now.
Your last lap was your best lap. How did the car come to you? Did you start feeling more comfortable? Take us through that.
Basically, the car started out a little bit loose, so you know we were careful with it, and I got my bars set, and then we were able to run wide open all the way around, and that's where the speed came from. Like I told AJ, we finally got everything set to run it flat, and so I was sorry it wasn't there the first lap.
A Foyt and an Unser together. How's that relationship worked over the last couple of weeks?
It's worked great. You know, AJ's been really, really super with me, and you know, and really a lot of the reason I think it's because he's a driver, and he knows, you know, you got to make the driver happy before they can run quick, and so he's been really good with me. So
through all your ups and downs at this racetrack and outside the track, how good does it feel to be in the car and to have a good solid run and be back here at Indianapolis?
It just feels great, you know. I want to say hello to everybody at home, all my buddies out there. They've supported me really well, and I just want to thank you know, the whole team. They did a great job, and this truly is the best therapy I can receive is in this car.
You took that last lap, and your dad had some tears in his eyes there. He got a little emotional. How were the emotions for you in there? Did you feel those at all?
Sure. You know, you're qualifying for the greatest race in the world, and when you get that done, you just it's exciting, it's thrilling, it's emotional, it covers the spectrum.
Thanks, Al. Congratulations.
Got it. Thank you.
So Al Unser Jr. is in his 19th Indy 500, and Jack Arute, I see you standing there with some news potentially on a third Foyt entry.
Well, you remember 1 year ago when Ryan Briscoe was trotted out on the final day on bump day by A.J. Foyt. We remember when he did it with Felipe Giafoni 1 year ago. We now have confirmed that Larry Foyt has passed his physical here at the Infield Care Center. And I talked to Larry Foyt. You know, I can kind of get inside of AJ's garage. Well, I came out here early and I checked out the equipment that is in the locker for Larry Foyt. Well, he's got everything he needs. And when I asked Larry if he was going to maybe go out and attempt to put a third car in the field, he said, well, I've got my stuff. It's all up to old AJ.
Well, as we always say, stay tuned.
Exactly. You might see it tomorrow.
Yeah.
You might be the key to the bump day.
Well, as you take a look at that grid, notice the pylon there. There are 6 spots remaining to be filled. There's your front row, Castroneves, Kanaan, Franchitti. Let's show you all 9 that we have filled.
A pretty strong second row with Dixon, Hornish, and Weldon. Look for all those guys wanting to lead very early in the race.
Then in row number 3, Ryan Briscoe, Danica Patrick, and Marco Andretti.
In row 4, Thomas Scheckter, a great run by him. Michael Andretti looking for his first victory here, and Scott Sharp.
Sharp led the day 2 qualifiers. There was Jeff Simmons, his teammate, followed by Ed Carpenter and Darren Manning.
And on row 6, Buddy Rice, the 2004 winner, Kosuke Masura, and A.J. Foyt, the 4th.
That moves us into row number 7 with Vitor Mira, Davey Hamilton, and Sarah Fisher. These are all still second day qualifiers.
And on row number 8, Buddy Lazier, the 1996 winner, Roger Yasukawa, and John Andretti, who has done a great job here so far in a couple of days.
And of course, Yasukawa leading the parade of third-day qualifiers. Here are the remaining 3 into the field. Al Unser Jr., Milka Dunno, and Marty Roth right now with the slowest accepted time and speed at 2:18.922. So stay with us. We'll be back with more here as it is getting close to happy hour, the top of the hour, 5 o'clock Eastern. Indy is going to get good once again. You're looking at John Andretti here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway making a full tank run. He's already qualified. He made his attempt earlier today. And Andretti right now on the outside of row number 8 with his speed at 221.7 miles an hour. That last lap at 217 gives you an idea when you start adding more fuel to the tank. I'm Marty Reed along with Scott Goodyear, and down in pit lane we've got Jack Arute, Vince Welch, Brianne Pettigo. Glad that you're with us as we're into the final hour of third day qualifying here for the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500. We've got several drivers that have yet to make attempts. Let's get updates on some of them. Brianne Pettigo, you've got the latest on Phil Giebler.
That's right. The 31 has been struggling yesterday with some electrical problems. They've already changed motors. When they did that, they put in a new clutch. Phil Giebler was just out there. He seems pretty happy with the car. They were set to go get in line to qualify. However, the engine seems to be shorting out. Phil said it was making a grinding sound. The Honda guys have checked it out. They're trying to fix the issue. Phil said he's okay with the car. He can drive it the way it is. However, they're not sure if it'll last 4 laps. So we'll keep our eye on the Play-Doh racing car and see if Phil Giebler gets in the show today. Vince?
Standing here with Paul Diatlovich of PDM Racing, and of course Jimmy Kite is the driver for the 18 car. Paul, we documented the story earlier that you mortgaged your home to help finance this effort to get into the Indianapolis 500 field. Why is this place so special that you would go to such extremes to try to get in this race?
It's Indianapolis. I mean, with the tradition go back to 1911. For all it's meant for me, this is my 31st year here. I'm proud, privileged to be part of the Speedway family, and an opportunity came up, and I just had to go for it.
Talk about the progress, or inform us of the progress that you're making here as you look forward to making an attempt today.
Well, we're a second weekend qualifier. We got off to a pretty shaky start. We had a catastrophic failure in the rear of the car on Wednesday. Crashed the car, had to rebuild it. And, yesterday was really the first day that we got out onto the racetrack, got the confidence back, in our driver that, everything was going to be okay. And today's really the first day that we're trying to work up to speed. We have a small crew. We're working hard. We're trying to find some speed. We were 8 miles an hour short last night. Now we're only 2 miles an hour short, so we're definitely going in the right way.
How important is it to make an attempt today? You do have tomorrow to work with. Do you feel as though you need to make an attempt today, or you still feel as though this is a test day?
We're going to make an attempt today.
Definitely making an attempt today.
We will.
That's Paul Diatlovich. We'll keep an eye on the 18 car and its attempt with Jimmy Kite. Jack Arute?
Well, Vince, let's go back 1 week ago, 7 days at exactly this time. This guy, Tony Kanaan, knew that his teammate, Dario Franchitti, was on the pole. But you also knew that the key, Tony Kanaan, was to try and protect that position. A fellow Brazilian knocked your teammate off, and you had the last run of the day. What a difference a week makes, huh?
Oh, yeah, it looks like it was so long ago, but that was the plan. We, like I said before, we had chosen to go out of qualifying in 2 different strategies at the time in the morning, and Dario got the better end of the stick at that point, and I knew I could be much quicker, so when Ellie went out there, I said, if he knocks him out, we're going to go out. And I think you guys like it. I like it a little bit.
Just a little bit, right?
Apart from the last lap.
Let's talk about that last lap. Now that you have some time to think about it, chat with your engineers, debrief, can you isolate exactly what happened? Because you were ahead of the curve before that last lap.
Oh, for sure, Jack. What we did, actually, I brought it up to speed very quick. My out lap was a 225. And with that little downforce, the tires were great, but they can only take it so much. And all day long, turn 2 was a problem for us, understeering. Like that car harnessed as well off guard on these 2 attempts. And on my last lap, I left turn 2, So I was trying to just going into turn 3 to free the car up a little bit to be able to maintain that speed. And actually, I got a gust of wind, and under steer, I had to turn the steering a little more, and I lost that 0.004 of a second that it cost me the pole. So I think it was Helio's day.
Tony, from the start of your career in go-karts, all the way through your IndyCar career, you have been linked to Helio Castroneves. All the way through kart, all the way over to here to IndyCar racing. Can you characterize for me your relationship with Helio now?
It's been a little, we had a little bit of a problem at the end of last year at Chicago. He got upset with me, and we haven't spoke. We're both, we know each other for 23 years. Look at how beautiful this guy is. Look at him. Look at him. So I love him. I think, you know, I told him the other day, I love you and I hate you in a good way. So we haven't had a chance to talk, and we will sit down and talk. We've been talking more often. We went from speaking to not speaking, and now we're coming back. So eventually, I'll invite him to dinner maybe tomorrow or the next day when we go to New York, and we'll sort things out.
Well, you know, what you might want to do is get put on equal footing, go out and win the Indianapolis 500, and then you can talk us to Indy 500 champions.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he won twice. I might win this time, and we'll maybe get a glass of milk together.
There you go. Hey, Vince.
Well, standing here with Helio in the conversation with TK about your relationship with him. It used to be so close. It's been a little strained of late, and he was just updating us on maybe making a little progress. How would you characterize your relationship with TK?
Oh, man, let me tell you. Tony and I mean, we've been friends for a long time, and I think the beauty of it is, I remember when we were kids, we said, hey, man, if you get there one day, don't forget me. I'll carry your helmet. I'll do anything. So vice versa, yes. And the good news is both of us succeed, and that's the beauty of it, you know. And again, I mean, we always push at each other, which is the good news. And I tell you, that guy is, it's one of those things. Or you love him or you hate him, and I guess right now we're in both situations.
He said the same thing. But in any relationship that lasts 20 years, you're going to have ups and downs, right?
Yeah, it's natural. I mean, I care a lot about that guy. You know, it's I know a lot of what he went through, and you know, it's I guess these little things. It's part of it. I'm already over. Actually, for me, it's always going to be my friend. I mean, I don't care whatever happens. You know, he always going to be, I mean, a special place in my heart, and I don't mind that.
Good friends, but serious competitors. So how good did it feel maybe to get the pole over him on pole day?
Now that's different. When we're out there, okay, I have to separate the friendship. You know, I mean, that's it's our what we're here for. You know, we want to be the best, and I consider him an incredible race car driver. You know, I always consider him an incredible race car driver, and to do a pole position over him, I mean, definitely it's just to prove to me, to myself, that I'm beating the best, you know, and I'm sure he feels the same way. But it was, I have to say that was a little bit lucky, I guess, on my side. And it was a great event. I think you guys had a great time.
We did. Before we let you go, you're the pole sitter. What are you doing out here on day 3 of qualifying? What are you working on?
Well, we want to make sure, obviously, the last 2 days, unfortunately, the weather was really cold. And now we're having this kind of a very good weather, which is simulate very close to what we're going to have next Sunday. I mean, so that's why, not only myself, but you saw everybody out there trying to make sure that we can get as close as possible temperature. Hopefully, whatever we're doing in the car right now, we'll work on a Sunday, May 27th.
Well, we hope the weather's like this on race day, that's for sure. Helio Castroneves, he'll start from the pole on race day.
Of course, Tony will be right beside him. Now, if you were not at Chicago last year, if you remember, Helio was in the championship chase, was trying to get around TK. He felt TK hung him out and cost him a good shot at getting back into the fight up front. Tony, in his own defense, said, hey, I was racing for position with another car at that time. That's how it all got started. And as you can tell, they're trying to mend the fences. All right, let's take a look at the front row and show you exactly where these guys shake out. You mentioned the fact that in Hurd, of course, Helio has his second pole, and of course, he has won this race twice. Tony has been on the pole once, And of course, Dario was sitting on the pole for 5 hours last week, only to be bumped off. This is going to be a very good race next week. It's not just these three. We were talking about it today. There are legitimately 6 guys that can be considered favorites and another 5 beyond that that could be in play.
And remember, this is not a 200-mile race. This is not a sprint race. This is 500 miles. So things play out in it. There's a lot of times where the fastest car does not win this race because there's tire strategy, pit strategy, fuel strategy, all those things that go along with it. It's a team sport, although it's just the driver driving the race car. Absolutely, it takes a team effort to win the Indianapolis 500.
We told you it was going to get good. 2 cars are presenting themselves for qualification runs. As we head to break, we'll relive last week. It was a blast.
Tony Kanaan turning it loose on a pole run right now. Tony Kanaan takes over the pole position. Wow, Dario, he's got the pole position right now. Can he hang on? We have a new pole sitter, Dario Franchitti. Sam Hornish Jr. half a lap away from grabbing the pole position from Dario. Did he do it? No, he's second. Does Scott Dixon have anything for Dario Franchitti? Incredible. Dario hanging on. Elliott wants to make a last-minute run at the pole position. Green flag waving for Elio Castroneves. Go get it. 2.5 miles away from grabbing the pole position. Did he do it? Yes, he did. Castroneves is on the pole. About 3 minutes remaining. Here comes Tony Kanaan, green flag waving. TK, show us what you got. Oh my goodness, Tony Kanaan is fast enough.
High drama.
No, he did not do it. Elio gets it. Unbelievable.
That was the drama last week. Now we're getting ready for 3rd day of qualifying. That is Alex Barron getting ready to go out on his first qualifying attempt. Let's get more from Brianne Pettigo.
Well, guys, it is just past 5:15. You know, mandatory impound starts at 4:45 here. Even though it is the last 11 positions in the field qualifying today, the rules still apply. After 4:45, any car that qualifies must go to mandatory impound, where they cannot touch their car for the rest of the day until 6 o'clock. Greg Beck says he's not so worried about that as Alex Barron, his driver, goes out there to qualify. However, they're only disappointed that they won't be able to go back out and do some full tank runs. That's the only downside, he says, to being stuck in mandatory impound for the rest of the day.
Well, then they also still have to remember they have tomorrow. They'll be able to do some of that. And right now, the focus is at hand that you've got to get a solid enough run not to worry about being bumped from the field come tomorrow. And the reference to Greg Beck, of course, he is the owner of Beck Motorsports, as Curb Records, the Agajanian family, and Greg Beck involved in this program as on the warm-up lap right now, Alex Barron.
Artie, and Alex has 4 starts here. You know, he's really incredible when you think about how versatile this driver is, and he loves to go out and do his dune buggy running and things of that nature with his family. But 2002 to 2005, he was here, and the best finish of a 4th in 2002. But the thing that impressed me about the stats when I was looking at it is out of the 4 races, the first 2 he completed all 200 laps as he comes down now for his green flag to take the start of his run. And then 180 laps in 2004, but that was the one that was cut short of range, so that's full distance. And then only 3 laps short in 2005. So that's what a lot of team owners look at when they go and look for a driver that has actually been on the pace and competing and finishing all the laps here at the 500.
Now, if you were not with us last weekend, what you're seeing at the bottom of the screen is our lap tracker, and that is compared to the 23rd position. That's Roger Yasukawa. And you can see that he is in the red, which means he is slower than Yasukawa's time and his speed of a lap average of 222.654. And it's going south even deeper as he comes out of 4.
But remember, we saw this before, Giebler. You do not want to turn this run off whatsoever. You might as well just go ahead and take it. You may not be able to have a chance to go out and requalify if you send the car to impound. Now, There's one update, though, that's really on that. Yes, it's mandatory impound from 4:45 onwards, but you can withdraw the car. You can take the car out of impound. It then cancels out your qualifying time that you had if they felt they wanted to take another shot at this, say at 5:45 or 10:06 before the gun goes off.
And remember, his lap of 2:20.2 right now would put him in the middle of row number 9. That would be ahead of Milka Dunno and the 25 of Marty Roth. So that would be a little comfort zone for him, as again, he is well south of the 24 of Roger Yasukawa. But again, a good consistent lap, 2:20.2.
Absolutely, and the reason to put the car into the field is because there's a lot of poker going on right now back in the garage area and also up and down here on Gasoline Alley on this main straightaway where all the teams are sitting out here now watching these times go along. The thing that you have to remember is that will Larry Foyt come out? We don't know that. Will Foyt put another car in? We don't know that. Those are the things that are unknowns at this point in time. So get the car in the field, let it get qualified, and then sit back and see if you actually have to make a decision or react to it at that time.
All right, this time by, we're going to switch the comparison. Instead of up to 23rd, let's go to our slowest qualifier, which would be Marty Roth. And there he is. Roth is in 27th and well above in the green. And again, another lap at 220.6 miles an hour. So very comfortable right here. He's going to be solid with a good run of 220 as long as he doesn't make any mistakes in this last lap.
And I don't think you have to worry about that because we said earlier in the show, I think it's going to be somewhere in the 218 range and maybe a low 219 as the slowest speed to get into the field here for the Indianapolis 500. So I don't think that he's going to have to worry about this if they go ahead and accept this time.
Well, Alex Barron and this team have run twice this year. At Homestead, they finished 19th. At Kansas, they finished 16th. And right now, they're taking the checkered flag, and he will accept the run last lap at 220.741. So he saves the best till last, ends up with a 4-lap average of 220.471, right in the middle of row number 9, with Milka Dunno behind him as well as Marty Roth. We're going to step aside for just a few moments, but we still have more qualifying. That is Jacques Lazier. He'll get ready to make his first attempt today at Indy. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Jacques Lazier has taken the green flag. He is on his first lap of 4, and you can see, comparing him to Marty Roth, he is above on our lap tracker, and that would put him ahead of the slowest speed currently in the field. Marty Roth's 218.9. Ooh, dipping a little bit here coming out of 4, getting a little closer to Roth's time. Angelique, his wife, over on the right. You see his resume there. He's trying to make his 6th Indy 500. His first lap at 219.9 miles an hour. That right now would put him on the outside of row number 9.
And Marty, as a driver, you know exactly what your time is when you come around and go across the start and finish line, the yard of bricks. The drivers have that computer system. That's a computer dash. It's on the steering wheel. As you see his father, Bob Lazier, looking on. One-time starter here at the Indianapolis 500, but the driver themselves get to know exactly what the actual speed is all the way around the race course, and then that average speed that you see when you go across the yard of bricks, which is coming up to right now. And he will cross that and look on his dash and see his speed and then decide whether he needs to change his line at all to try to improve the speed around the next time.
219.7, so he stays in the 219 range. It would keep him on the outside of row number 9, and that would be 2 slower cars behind him. While he continues on his 3rd lap, let's bring in Vince Welch.
Alex Barron just finished his run in the 98 for Beck Motorsports. You've got a kind of a superhero paint scheme on your helmet, and these guys were giving you some congratulations like you were their hero. You got it done in a short amount of time. What was the most difficult aspect of it this week?
Well, I think we got a late start yesterday. We had some data hiccups that we had to work on, so we didn't run much yesterday. So this morning we came out, we tried a setup on the car, and we just had a lot of push. So we had to go back to the garage and regroup, and Greg came up with a good setup to come back out in and fix the understeer, and the car was pretty well balanced. So we just put it in line because it's funny, you get here early in the morning and next thing you know it's 6 o'clock, especially on qualifying day. So we're real happy with it. I'd like to thank Beck Motorsports and Curb Records for everything. Without them, I wouldn't be here.
Nice job, guys.
I think Dario Franchitti would disagree with that. I don't think he thought last week went fast at all.
Yeah.
Here we go with Jacques Lazier crossing the stripe, and Jacques' fourth lap is going to put him comfortably in the field, although it is his slowest lap, 2:18.6. He's on the outside of row number 9, the 27th position, which means he has got 2 cars slower than him, Bill Caduno and Marty Roth. And Marty Roth, 2:18.9. That's the slowest speed right now. And there's John Herb. He's getting ready to go. As John Herb begins his qualifying run, we'll remind you that the greatest spectacle in racing, qualifying for the 91st Indianapolis 500, concludes with Bump Day. Indianapolis 500 qualifying telecast presented by GoDaddy.com. Bump Day tomorrow at ABC at 1 Eastern and ESPN2 at 5 Eastern. Out on the track, John Herb trying to punch his way into the field. We do not have a full field yet. You can see he is being compared right now to Marty Roth, the 25, who is the slowest car in the field. And our lap tracker shows him ahead of Roth as he gets ready to complete lap number 1 at 220.637. In fact, that would be better than Alex Barron, would move him into the middle of row number 9. Very comfortable.
And very nice run. A little better conditions probably now for him than it was before. Both his warm-up laps were very similar. The previous one 2:18.1, this one 2:17.9. So the car seems to be about settled no matter what time of day he runs. So that's going to make him feel very confident over the next 3 laps.
While this run continues, let's catch up with Jacques Lazier on his run. Vince?
Well, his team told me they were targeting 2:19.5. Well, it was 2:19.4, so it's pretty close. How did it feel for you?
Yeah, it felt pretty good. We were chasing it a little bit there as far as the overall balance, and but it actually felt like we kept up with it pretty good. The last lap, it actually felt like my best lap, but it was pretty slow. So I don't know exactly what happened there. We'll take a look at the data, but I mean, all things said and done, that should be strong enough. We should be in the field, and from here we'll go get ready for race day, because that's the one that matters. I know we have a good setup for race day. For some reason, this chassis we can consistently run 19s, mid to high 19s in race trim, but in qualifying trim, it just doesn't like it. So we'll be ready race day.
Jacques Lazier, the Playa del Racing team, in the field.
Jacques is running a Panos chassis, one of the 05 Panos chassis, amongst the other top teams running the Lara. And now 3 laps down. John Herb slowed down a little bit on that last lap, and that would put him on the outside of row number 3, or row number 9, I should say. 220.445 is his average right now.
The most important thing is just to keep consistent, get the car in the field so they can come back here tomorrow and start running and paying attention. Just full tank setup. That's when you're running out there with 22 gallons of ethanol fuel on board, and you're starting to try and run the car in traffic, as we saw with some of the front runners just a little bit earlier in the show, trying to understand how the car will run with all the other cars on the racetrack out there for race day.
So the decision to wave off does not hurt John Herb and the team. They did that earlier today. He finishes his run and will be on the outside of row number 9. 220.108 is 4-lap average. Currently 27. And you can hear the team talking about the fact, a good run. And it is good because he has 3 cars as a cushion as we head towards the final 3 spots. So Marty Roth still our slowest qualifier, 2:18.9. And who's going to pick up those last 3 spots? There's Phil Giebler. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Phil Giebler, a rookie at the age of 27 on his first qualifying attempt. And you can see, compared to Marty Roth, our slowest qualifier so far, on his first lap, he is in the green on our lap tracker, which means he will be ahead of the 25 of Marty Roth. And his lap 1, 221.752 miles an hour. That would be good enough to put him on the inside of row number 9.
You know, what a neat thing for all drivers to come here, many of them start in karts just like Phil did, and to be able to realize a dream to come here to the Indianapolis 500 is quite a neat thing. Here again, up into the turn, nicely to the wall, down to the apex, down to the white line, and then let the car flow out to the wall to try and make sure you don't scrub off too much speed through the turns. Trying to keep your speed up is most important in the turns.
Jack Arute, you've got more on this Indy Pro Series veteran?
Yeah, Marty, how important is it to be adaptable and to be able to make changes? Well, for young Phil Giebler, he realized that his IndyCar dreams would be predicated on his ability to feed back information. He has, on his very own laptop computer, the same engineering data that is downloaded from the car each and every night as all of his engineers. It's kind of like having the ability to look at the game film before you go in for the debrief.
Well, he is doing very well right now. Both laps at 2:21 and change. This man competed in 3 Indy Pro Series events last year. His best was a 3rd place finish at Watkins Glen. Of course, Watkins Glen, a road course.
Absolutely. I want to see how he gets through turn 1 this time. I think I saw the back end move on him just a little bit on the exit of 1 that previous time through. So let's watch his run through 1 where we are right now.
And since he was doing so well, he's well ahead of Marty Roth's pace. Let's switch it over. Notice now it's comparing him to the number 24 of Roger Yasukawa, who is 23rd. Oh, no! A spin! And he's heading for the inside wall.
That thing was loose. I saw that in turn 1. Just the back end walking itself a little bit on the 4th phase going through the turn. Thought that I saw that in turn number 1 on that 3rd lap, and that's not what you want to have.
So the team has just been informed, because obviously they had no monitor down there where they were. That's on the back straightaway, and still waiting to see. There's the Delphi safety team heading on out. So Phil Giebler's run, and he was on a very strong run. And Scott, you picked it up. You said, let's watch him going into 1 because you thought you saw it. And sure enough, coming out of 2, the car got away from him, and Phil is into the wall.
Now, we can't see it because we're looking at it from the back section, but it looks like he's now starting to get out. See, the car just gets that little bit of a wiggle. Notice that before. That means the car's just a little bit loose on the backside. Doesn't get the car lined up going into the next turn because he had the problem in 1. So he was off pace really to get himself into 1. Now, that's not a huge hit. They're going to have some suspension damage on the right-hand side. Now, this will do a little bit more damage to the right rear, unfortunately. But when the car goes through turn 1, he's just a little high because the car is just a little bit loose for him. He can't turn the wheel enough down to bring it down towards the apex, down the center of 1. So now he's a little bit high coming through 1, and you see the result there on the exit of 2 because he just couldn't get the car down towards the line where he should have been entering into 2.
So that is our 5th crash here in the month of May, and you can see he gets up into the gray right there, and that's way too high.
Oh, boy. Now here we go, and that's the one that does probably more damage than kissing the wall on the right-hand side with the suspension.
Take it in slow motion.
Now look how high he is coming out of turn 1. Now a little short shoot. It's not very much time whatsoever to try and get the car set up for 2. He's already into the gray, and he's not even really to the apex by the time he's up into the gray already, and you really have no chance of making the car work at that point in time.
And as we said, he was on a very good run. He was into the last lap. All he had to do was 3 more corners, but that's what makes this 4-lap deal so hard.
I'm riding with him. Boy, you can see him turning the wheel just a little bit more than hoping that the front wheels are going to bite. But by the time you're that much in the gray, the steering wheel starts to get light to your feel. The car starts to slide itself towards the wall. Remember, this is happening at 215 miles an hour, so it doesn't take a long time before that thing is going to come out from underneath you in the middle of the turn and start sliding and then impacting the safer barrier on the outside.
So at 5:35 Eastern Time, one more look, and take a look at the telemetry.
And here we are, watch the telemetry, 100% on the throttle, so he's committed to it, turns the car in. Let's see if the throttle starts to change about mid-turn. Yep, he realizes it's gone wrong. The RPMs go down, the speed goes down. He hits and impacts at 208 miles an hour, turning the wheel saying, please help me.
Yeah, 77 degrees input on the steering. You've got your hands crossed over.
Now there's the mark that's on the wall. What I always find fascinating about this place is that you'll come back tomorrow, they would have painted that all over.
Yeah.
You don't have to look at that when you go back out the next day.
See what they did to Lowe's Motor Speedway? They painted the walls yellow down there. That was different. Under the lights. Saw that last night in the truck race. All right, we're waiting to get a report on Phil Giebler's condition. And while all this is going on, let's get an update from pit lane. Vince Welch.
Well, John Herb has had an interesting month, some ups and downs, and you're just keeping an eye on the incident with Giebler. But you're safe and sound and in the field. Nicely done.
Well, thank you very much. These guys worked really hard to get us here, so really feels good to be back here again, I guess I should say, after getting in twice on last weekend and bumped out both times. So unfortunately, we didn't have the speed today that we had then. It would have been a little more comfortable for us, but we got a pretty good race car, and that's what we've been focusing on, so we're pretty happy.
Yeah, it's been an interesting story. You were here as a rookie in 2001, and then you have not been back. You came back last weekend, qualified twice, got bumped out, and managed to make your way in today on your second qualifying attempt. It's been a roller coaster for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, it sure has, but it gets a lot easier when you got the right people behind you. These guys have been great. with great cars. We had a little problem having a wreck earlier in practice, and luckily we bounded back from that. Things are going great, and I can tell you Richie Hearn's going to be driving that car for me, and Ron Hemmelgarn carrying the 91 number starting tomorrow.
Well, there you go, guys. A little news from John Herb. Expect to see Richie Hearn in the 91 with Herb and Hemmelgarn behind that effort starting tomorrow. Jackaroo?
Well, actually, Vince, I hate to break the news to his teammate, but it's going to start right now. This is the car, number 91, that was rolled out of a trailer at approximately 7 o'clock this morning under the cover of trying to get here before everybody knew it and put into the Ron Hemmelgarn stable. Now, with 3 spots remaining, this is upped the ante, so to speak, for their driver, Richie Hearn. Richie, you thought maybe you were going to have an opportunity to take the rest of the day, shake things down. Now, all of a sudden, you see the back row is totally empty. Is there additional pressure now to get it done and put it in line before 6 o'clock?
We're not going to be able to do that today. You know, we have good weather tomorrow, hopefully, and you know, I just need to take it easy and just get up to speed. There's no rush.
Describe for me how a driver can take it easy and not feel the rush, not feel the sense of urgency when this is the greatest spectacle in racing and you've been sitting on the sideline since last year.
Well, it's been 2 years, yeah. It's been tough, but fortunately, I've done this before, so I have a lot of trust in these guys. They've done this before, and the car's going to be good. I just need to take my time and get it up to speed and, you know, do a decent job tomorrow and then have some fun the following Sunday.
Absolutely. He'll get to shake the car down, of course, all day tomorrow as he'll have to bump his way into the field. Let me explain to you, fellas, these 3 spots at the back end, as we take a look at approximately 24 minutes left to go in official qualifying, you've got P.J. Jones, son of Parnelli Jones, a former winner, that is certainly shaking things down and is certainly ready to try and put it in the field. You've got a couple of cars out in the back. I don't know about you, Scott and Marty, but I think right now, the fact that I'll have 3 qualifying attempts tomorrow as well as the 3 today, I'd be down there in that chute right now even if I was turning 209.
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, you have to do it safely because we saw the end result just a minute ago if you're actually driving the car a little bit past its limit. But, you know, Richie is a veteran here. He's had 6 starts. He won the 1996 Las Vegas 500 back in the kart era. So I would have to say that for a driver of his ability, he knows that not to push it over the line. And when you have a full day left tomorrow and you get 3 attempts in that one particular day, then probably the safest thing to do is just to wait.
Well, as they take Phil Giebler's car back to the garage area, and those guys will have to thrash pretty much through the night just to try and make it back for tomorrow. That will be one of the stories we'll follow. As we've got others, we're waiting for a car to present itself for qualifications, and it looks like somebody may be heading towards the line. Stay with us. We're coming back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that is Roberto Moreno going through the tech line. And if you were with us earlier, you know that Stefan Gregoire had a crash yesterday. Looked seemingly harmless, but it was just enough to fracture a bone in his back, and he will not be racing this year. And Roberto came out, climbed into the car today, and is getting ready to make a qualifying effort. And as he rolls through the tech line, did you ever find yourself in this position where you were subbing for somebody late in a race?
No, but you know something I was just thinking about when you talk about sub, you know, super sub as it is. I mean, it's just amazing his ability to turn around and drive different various cars for different teams and always run well. And that's why he's got the nickname Super Sub, and he's had it for the last 10 years. And it doesn't matter if it's this type of car with Indy cars or even sports cars.
Well, we have caught up with Phil Giebler. Brienne, you've got him?
That's right. Phil, not the way you wanted that run to end. Walk us through what happened there.
Well, it's just been a really difficult week just to start with, and I just decided to give the team another obstacle here with doing that. But it was one of those things that just completely caught me off guard there in qualifying, and we just really been struggling for time on the track, and to go out there, we weren't even planning to go out for qualifying. We just ran out of time, really, so we decided to stick it out there. The car was really running good, and obviously we had the speed to get in, no problem. So it wasn't like I was pushing too hard or anything, and all of a sudden the car just had a big understeer into the exit of 2, and I tried to do whatever I could to save it. I gave it as much lock as I could, and I backed out of it, but just went straight for the wall. And so it's my first impact on an oval, and hopefully my last. And hopefully the Playa del Racing team will come back strong after this, and we'll get it in the show, no problem.
Now, right before that run, you were struggling with a clutch issue. Do you think that had anything to do with what happened?
Well, there's still something funny going on when I was using 6th gear, so wasn't even able to use my top gear. I was in 5th gear, and for some reason, when it's in 6th gear, I'm having a lot of jerking around with the engine and transmission, so I don't know what's going on, but the Honda guys are working really hard on it, and so are the Plydell guys. Those guys have been working so hard, and we just haven't had that much track time, but being a rookie here and the limited track time that I've been having so far, we've been running really good, and I know we could have a good race here coming after this qualifying, hopefully tomorrow, and get the car in the show.
Well, we're glad you're okay, and we'll see you out here tomorrow.
Thanks.
Guys?
Yeah, like we said, he would have been on the inside of row number 9 had he just been able to complete that lap, but not to be. We've seen it happen so many times here. Things are going so well, and just in a matter of a moment, it turns sour. Getting ready now for Roberto Moreno's first attempt today, and boy, the super sub, he's had a long storied career. Now, it started many, many years ago. We'll give you his complete rundown, but just in case you're tuning in late, let's take you back to the moment that put him into this car, when Stefan Gregoire, who was working up to speed, ended up with this almost innocent spin that ended up fracturing his back.
He's almost all the way through the turn, and the back end just comes out from underneath him. We call that oversteer. Goes up towards the wall, impacts the wall. Does not look like it's actually very difficult whatsoever in the sense of the impact, but I'll tell you something. The first time I broke my back in Brazil, Marty, I did much the same sort of thing. Went towards the wall, and as I'm going backwards, I'm thinking to myself, boy, I hope we have the parts here to repair this car because we're out of the country. And we hit it 182 miles an hour, and I damaged 3 vertebrae in what I thought was going to be a very innocent accident. So you never know how hard the impact is. When I say that, 180 miles an hour is still pretty fast to go hit something that's solid.
Yeah, it is. And you saw Stefan there, and we talked to him earlier, and he's regretting the fact that he's not going to be in this car. But here comes super sub Roberto Moreno on his first of 2 warm-up laps. Back in Formula One through 87 through 1995, he had 42 starts in F1, 4 top 5s, 12 top 10s there. Had 120 starts in kart and champ car. He's had 3 starts in the IRL, 99 at Phoenix and here at Indy, where he started 23rd and finished 20th. And then here at Indy, again, 1986, he raced, where he started 15th and finished 19th.
And obviously a long career, and 48 years old, many years behind the wheel. Now we'll have to see if he can stay on the throttle here for all the way through the turn. 100% throttle is what you want. We say that all the time. Once you start to get down into that north end of the track, coming up to the first lap of qualifying, you want to make sure that you are hard on the gas.
All right, we've got our lap tracker set for his comparison to Marty Roth, who is our slowest qualifier right now. Roth in the outside of row 10 at 218.9 miles an hour.
Now, his warm-up lap was 206 miles an hour, so that is a good 8 miles an hour minimum off what people were generally doing when they were out there. So we're going to have to look for a huge improvement here on this first, we're going to call flying lap. So we'll have to see how this works out for him.
Take a look right now at 0.4 of a second. It appears that he is behind, and we'll get our first lap, and here he is, and yes, it is 216.4 miles an hour, so that would certainly qualify as the slowest speed turned in today.
I look for the next consecutive laps as he gets a little close to the wall there in 2 on the exit. Look for these laps to continually get quicker as he starts to get a little bit more confident, as he's been out of the seat with these cars for quite some time and away here from Indianapolis since 1999. When I spoke to him this morning, he said, I'm not nervous, but I just want to make sure that I'm confident enough. And you can see him drag the left wheels there below the white line down towards the curbing on 4. So using up a lot of room right now. We'll have to see if he can make this run a little bit more consistent.
Lap 2 at 215.2 miles an hour, and I think he's got himself an ill-handling race car, and if he takes it much lower below the line, we've seen that happen.
Yeah, you cannot carry a race car around here. Remember, he got close to the wall in turn 2 there. Previous lap, a little close possibly there on that particular lap. Now, the wind is actually going cross-track today. It's going from turn 1 to turn 2, which is maybe the cause of what we saw the accident previously with Phil Giebler. But I think in this situation now, he just wants to continue and finish the run and maybe put it down to experience and understand what the car did for him in these 4 qualifying laps. You saw his head dip down there. I would imagine he's actually looking for the controls inside the cockpit to make some adjustments in the car, whether with a weight jacker or the roll bars.
All right, his third lap at 2:16.5, and again, that's going to make him the slowest car in the field right now. Would put him on the inside of row 11 with 2 spots still to be determined. That's if they accept the run. They can wave it off. In fact, there will be a flag position as you look down from the far end of the racetrack when he comes out of 4, and we'll be looking to see if they accept the run or wave it off.
On your right-hand side, where the car is headed towards, they do not. Otherwise, they will accept the checkered flag.
So they're going to take the run, the last lap again at 2:16.6 miles an hour. So his average will be 2:16.229, and that makes Roberto Moreno our slowest qualifier with 2 positions still to fill. And it gives a comfort level of about 2.5 miles an hour to Marty Roth, who's on the outside of row 10 in the number 25.
You know, I'm sure they don't, and I don't expect this time is going to hold up tomorrow. And we, because of the accident, maybe don't have that much time left here to get some more qualifiers maybe filling the field, but we're waiting to see what happens here in the next 10 minutes. But I know that they must feel they're going to have to go out there and do this again tomorrow.
Jack, you've got more on Roberto's team?
Well, I beg to disagree with my driving expert upstairs. I think that this was certainly wise on Roberto Moreno's part to take, because what we don't know, and we've been treated to 3 great days of qualifications here at Indianapolis weather-wise, but any of us that have been here, as long as Scott and you and I have, we know that there's been oftentimes, this is a great place to be a weatherman, because you can be wrong more than you can be right. We've woken up on many occasions where they've predicted bright, sunshiny skies, and we've been encased in a monsoon. The other thing that I think you've got to remember, fellas, is the fact that you have 3 qualifying attempts tomorrow. So why leave anything or any bullets left in the chamber today? Take this and just get prepared for tomorrow. It's very similar to what I think we saw Al Unser Jr. do 1 week ago, when he certainly, when he got out of the cockpit, didn't think it was going to hold for one of the top 22 positions, but he took it and said, hey, if we got to come the second week, we'll do so. And we saw what Al Jr. did today as he put the 50 in the field.
And you make a very good point, Jack, and it may just be a situation where it does turn as far as the weather. You know what I always say about weather guys, they're 75% correct 15% of the time. And as Roberto tries to climb out of the cockpit, who knows? Maybe tomorrow is a different day. And as you pointed out very succinctly, he does have 3 more chances tomorrow. There's Stefan Gregoire waiting to talk it over with him. But they're in the field right now, inside of row number 11, with 2 positions still to fill. And we had a brief moment of getting ready, I think, for Jimmy Kite. I think they're going to take a stab at this before the close of business today.
You did a good job. Yep.
Roberto trying to get the hat situated. Vince, can you get a word with him?
Sure can. Roberto Moreno, since 1999 it's been since you've qualified here and made the field at the Indianapolis 500. That run out there, Scott Goodyear, our analyst, said he's using a lot of track. Did it feel like you were all over it like it looked to be?
Well, we've been much more comfortable than that earlier. We've been trying things, and we unfortunately got caught with the qualification. So we didn't have our ideal car yet. We actually have a race car set up now. So we thought we'd give it a go anyhow, just to make sure, just in case it rains tomorrow. But our team has a much better car for tomorrow if it doesn't rain, and we'll try again.
How comforting is it knowing that you have 3 more attempts tomorrow should you need them with this lower qualifying speed?
Well, it's extremely important. It's a great opportunity for me to be in trying to qualify here, but it's a big challenge. Jumping in after 8 years in the last minute straight into the qualifying day and trying to go flat around here that I never done before. So it's been a great challenge, but the team has helped me a lot throughout. In a very short time, we've been able to build up speed. So it's not ideal yet, but it will become. But the time we cannot make up for what we didn't have before. But I'm grateful for Tom Chastain for the opportunity, and we'll keep trying our best, and I'm sure we're going to improve tomorrow and be much better for the race.
Roberto Moreno. Guys?
Well, and that's good to get that word from him, because if they did have a race car setup, in other words, more downforce, that would explain why he fell off his earlier practice speeds. And as he pointed out, he's sort of going with Jack's theory. Let's stick it in there. The worst that can happen is we got to come back out and roll it out again tomorrow.
Which I'll still go and say I think they're going to have to do. But, you know, you talk about a race car setup. Yes, more downforce. That means the car has more drag going down the straightaway. It does not have as much top speed going down the straightaway as it generally would. And that means the car is going to go slower all the way around the race course. And that's what you want in race day, obviously, with more downforce because of the traffic, the other cars on track, and maybe not optimum for qualifying.
And Stefan Gregoire being interviewed by someone else about the fact that he will not be around, at least in the cockpit of the number 77 machine, come race day. Still have Jimmy Kite getting ready. There he is, Kite Man, in the cockpit, strapped in. They have presented, so it looks like this might be our final run of today as the number 18. You know, you were with us earlier. You saw that Jacques Lazier's car had all kinds of logos from various sports franchises as a salute to him. This team tried to put the 18 of, obviously, the number of Peyton Manning, and they wanted to put Go Colts on it, but the Indianapolis Colts said no. More on that. Let's listen to Brian.
Hit your mark, give me 4 good laps, and let's see where we go.
So Jimmy is very used to being in this situation where it's late in the day and he has to make a qualifying run. He's done it several times on bump day. He's got 3 runs for tomorrow. And of course, this team got set back a little bit earlier this week when they came out and they had a gearbox failure heading down into turn number 1, and Jimmy ended up going into the wall. Let's take you back to that moment.
Just entering into turn 1, the car gets all the way down to the apex and the back end swaps itself around. So the understanding was that they actually had a failure in the gearbox where the A-arm, the suspension piece, mounts onto the car, and then the car just comes around on you. And Marty, you were really a passenger at that point in time. There's nothing a driver can do. You can see the cars, well, that's the beginning of his qualifying run.
So now he comes back out on the track. Jack, you got more?
Well, guys, consider the fact that when Jimmy Kite was a rookie here back in the mid-90s, he drove for a team that was sponsored by Royal Purple. As a rookie, he crashed not 1 day, but 2 days, then 3 days, then 4 days. Each and every day, he felt that the best way he could bond with his crew was to bring a box of donuts after the crash. By the time they got to the 4th day, the crew suggested that he simply buy the donut store.
I think if I remember correctly, it's about 1998, and he was running with Team Scandia at the time. Glad that you're with us here at Indianapolis. This looks like it will be the final run of the day. By my watch, it's about 3 minutes to 6. Let's get more on Jimmy Kite from Vince Welch.
This team made a gear change this morning at 11 o'clock. They've been having trouble getting up to speed, getting the RPMs where they want them to be. Then just prior to this qualifying run, Paul Diatlovich, team owner, had his hands in there, getting his hands dirty again as they made another gear change, just trying to get this car up to the RPM level that's going to produce the optimum speed. This is a G-Force, a Panos chassis, whereas the majority of the other cars, only except for a couple of others, are all Dalaras. So there's not a lot of information to glean on these types of race cars, these chassis. I talked to Jimmy Kite's father a little bit earlier today, and they said they were going to be getting some help from one of the teams, the Ganassi team, that ran this chassis last year at Indianapolis and has quite a bit of data. So if Jimmy Kite isn't quick enough to have a comfortable speed today, maybe they'll get a little data help tonight and be better tomorrow.
And Vince, that's some great information, because what the driver knows is that this car is not as far along in the development chain as all the other cars the other teams are using the Dallara chassis, because each time you get a chance to put the car on the racetrack, you learn something about the car, you learn something about how the tires perform with that car, and you're always, as they call it, tweaking the race car. You're trying to find little things that make the race car go faster, make things that make the car comfortable for the driver. And because these chassis are really not being used now, they've almost been phased out with the exception running here at the Indianapolis 500. Throughout the regular season, you're not getting any information at all. It doesn't matter if we're running at Homestead or Japan or Kansas. On the all those races were used with Dallara chassis. So not only are you probably a year behind on the development of these chassis, maybe even just a little bit more, because they've been really out of the development curve here for quite some time.
And they're struggling to find speed. You see that first lap at 2:14. That is 2 miles an hour slower than the 77 of Roberto Moreno, who just went out. And Jimmy yesterday was the last of all the non-qualified cars. He got up to 2:15.2. So they are struggling mightily. And again, another lap at 2:14.
You know, Jimmy's a likable guy. You see him in the garage area. He's always out there signing autographs for the fans, always a smile on his face. And even when he gets out of the car after crashing, you know, you do an interview with him and he's happy.
Well, and in all fairness to him, in that 1998 story that we told about all those crashes, that's when he had his best finish at the 500 his rookie year. He finished 11th. So he can get the car around the track. Right now, they're just got to find him some more horsepower in this thing. I mean, you can see the lap tracker there. That's compared to 31st, which is Moreno's speed, and he is well behind it going into the final lap. Again, 2:14. But again, following Jack's theory, go ahead and take this run, see what happens tomorrow.
You know, it's difficult for the driver inside the cockpit at this point in time, too, because he knows, as I mentioned, exactly what the speed is, his average speed every time he goes across that start-finish line, and he just says, you know, how do I get more out of this car? Now, that accident the other day certainly set them back, because as a second weekend qualifier, you want to use every hour that you have available for you to go off and do some testing to learn, and that just didn't happen once they hit the wall.
So the final qualifier today, Jimmy Kite crosses the line, and again, it's in the 2:14 range, and he'll be in the 32nd next to last spot, 2:14.528 miles an hour. So as the day comes to a close, we have 32 of 33 positions, as Jimmy Kite is the last to make a run here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So as he coasted on out, get a chance to talk to him, and we'll get a chance to talk to him as we're just about ready to put the official cap on the third day of qualifications. There is the gun, and there it is. I think she startled herself a little bit. Nope, no geese fell from above, so she's okay. All right, so as Jimmy pulls in, we'll get a chance to talk to him when we come back here to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll be with you for one more half hour to recap today and look ahead to tomorrow.
Qualifying for a place, at least I know with who I race. How fast can you run?
Well, here on the third day of qualifications, we ran as fast as 2:22.6 for Roger Yasukawa and as slow as 2:14.5 for the last man to take the checker flag this afternoon, the 18 of Jimmy Kite. And he is down trackside after pulling his car in. I think we'll get a chance to talk to him with Vince Welch.
Well, it's not supposed to rain tomorrow, but maybe you'll be doing a rain dance. What's the thought process behind taking that speed?
I mean, the only reason we did is, you know, just to make sure we have a time up there on the board in case it would rain. I mean, I know as far as I'm concerned, the rest of the guys, we hope it doesn't. I mean, we want to get back out there and, you know, get some more speed out of the thing. We hadn't been in sixth gear all day. We finally got going. You know, we ran a 2:16 and found out when I shifted to six, it was way too tall. And we tried coming back, and you know, it was just once everybody started qualifying, it was an educated guess, and we really missed it. I mean, I was in a limiter in fifth, and as soon as I went to sixth, it just chugged along out there. You know, there's plenty more in it. Hopefully, we do get to run tomorrow, because I mean, we definitely like to put a better speed up there than that. But you know, at least for tonight, we're in, and you know, everybody will sleep a little bit better. And honestly, I know everybody here, we're hoping we do get to run more tomorrow.
Well, we talked a little bit during your qualifying run about your chassis, the Panos chassis compared to the Dallara. car that most of the other teams are running. And there's not a lot of data available to get that car to go fast, but you guys are trying to unearth some for tonight, maybe be a little better tomorrow.
We will, and like I said, with what happened to us on Wednesday, we missed the second half of Wednesday. We missed all of Thursday. So basically, yesterday was our Wednesday, and today's our Thursday. So I mean, we're a couple days behind right now. I mean, we made some pretty big strides today. It didn't obviously show with that, but I mean, we're in. Everybody at Z-Line and PDM are really understanding that they know that this isn't all the car's going to do. We have plenty left. It's just a work in progress. I mean, we're trying to get the car in the show, but work on a good race car setup all at the same time. We're just juggling that, but we'll be fine. I mean, there's no panic alarms going off here by any means.
Well, if it wouldn't be last day drama, it wouldn't be Jimmy Kite, would it?
I gotta say, it's bump day tomorrow. I guess I can clock in and go to work.
And he will indeed. Jimmy Kite currently in the field. Jack?
Well, Vince, for A.J. Foyt, horsepower is horsepower, whether it's the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and IndyCar competition or the Triple Crown and thoroughbred racing. What many people don't realize is A.J. Foyt's son, Tony, is one of the top thoroughbred trainers in the country. And A.J., of course, had more than his share of very successful Grade 1 stakes winners. So, A.J., you're getting ready to watch the Preakness. I don't really care that much about the Preakness right now. I care about what's going on with the number 41 at the back end of this big old garage.
Well, it's going to stay there. I mean, it's just not enough people, and I'm just trying to do the best we can with the two cars. We want to update our racing, and there's no sense overloading ourselves.
Well, we've seen Larry Foyt, your son, who's been assisting you all year. He brought all his driving gear out, went through the physical. Now, all of a sudden, I noticed that Jason Leffler is starting to become, well, your best friend. You told me that 1 year ago, too, and the next thing you did, you trotted out Ryan Briscoe at the 11th hour. If we get to the end of tomorrow, and there is still one spot, or let's say someone in the field at like 206 or 207, would you try to up the average speed by maybe throwing a veteran out there?
I might if it's somebody I don't like.
Hey, guys, you know the rest of that story, don't you? Goes all the way back to Texas, doesn't it?
Oh, okay. Well, that's one of those you'll have to tune in tomorrow to see if AJ rolls the car out. Then you'll know who he doesn't like. Stay with us. We're coming back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the most famous pylon in the world. At the top is the number 3 of Helio Castroneves. At the bottom, as we take a look at our current grid, there is one space remaining. It's the Castroneves, Kanaan, and of course Dario Franchitti across the front row. There's Dixon Hornish and Dan Weldon in row 2.
In row 3, Ryan Briscoe coming in and running a satellite operation underneath Penske. Danica Patrick, who we expect to do well, and Marco Andretti back for a second try here after a great finish last year.
And then it's Thomas Schechter with the best for Vision Racing. Michael Andretti still looking for that all-elusive first Indy 500 win. And Scott Sharp, the fastest second-day qualifier.
On row number 5, Jeff Simmons aboard that ethanol machine. Ed Carpenter with his Vision Racing machine, and also Darren Manning for A.J. Foyt. What a great run for them.
Then as we take a look at row 6, it's Buddy Rice, the 04 winner here at Indy. Koski Matsura, former Rookie of the Year here at the Speedway. And A.J. Foyt, the 4th.
And row number 7, Vitor Mera running with the Panther Racing Team, looking for his first win in the series. Davey Hamilton, what a great story that is, coming back after his 2001 accident at Texas. And Sarah Fisher back to the Indianapolis 500 again this year.
Then in row number 8, Buddy Lazier, followed by today's fastest qualifier, Roger Yasukawa. Then John Andretti on the outside of that row.
And row number 9, my friend from 1992, Al Unser Jr., along with Alex Barron, who always does a great job driving any type of cars, and John Herb on the outside of row number 9.
And then in row number 10, it's Jacques Lazier with Milka Dunno, making it 3 women here in the 500. Marty Roth on the outside of row number 10. And then Roberto Moreno and Jimmy Kite with one spot to be determined. And there you see the blank number right there on the pylon on the 33rd and last starting position. You know, it's always a happening here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's not just about what goes on, you know, in the pits and in the garage area. How about reliving a moment in history? Yeah, you recognize that man? 1963 winner here, Parnelli Jones. And he got to take out the number 40 that his son is going to attempt to qualify. And I'll tell you what, Parnelli gave it a good shakedown as he came across the line. Let's see what PJ thought of Dad behind the wheel.
Well, PJ was just finishing up watching his dad's run from earlier this morning. That's got to feel neat to see your dad back in the car. This is the 40th anniversary of the number 40, which had the STP on it. It's a very famous bright orange that we see back on the track. How did this come about?
They thought that I couldn't get it done, so they were going to hire him. So no, he got to do a few laps. No, we were just talking about it. It was the 40th anniversary of the turbine, and he'd never been in a modern day car, and we thought, wow, it'd be a good, a good thing for him to do. And he was smiling ear to ear, and I think he really enjoyed himself this morning.
Now, you mentioned the turbine, famous for the noise that it created on the track. It was one of the favorites of the fans. And on the side of your car, you've got Whoosh. I asked you, is that a sponsor or just a funny name? And it is significant because that's the sound that the car made, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Kent Baker and Tim Dolander came up with this, and our two owners, and we've gotten a lot of attention out of it. I mean, and it really, the paint job came out great, and car looks really good.
Now, it is Throwback Day. We've seen all the people walking around in tie-dyed shirts. And you guys, if you haven't seen PJ's crew out there, you've got to check out their shirts. I think maybe the best dressed guys on pit lane. They've even got the retro shirts with all the old patches. Looks pretty good.
Well,
now, before you guys get back to you guys, your dad has now a signature Ford Mustang. And I'm just wondering, do you got one of those in the garage?
Well, the Parnelli Jones Celine Mustang, yeah. They built 500 of them. They're all sold. I think there's a few dealers with them. Everybody asked me, did you buy one? I said, nope, we're going to inherit two. So, yeah, we have one. They're great. They're awesome cars, and I think they're faster than the Shelby, and they handle better. They handle a lot better than them. So, you got to look out for that Parnelli Jones Mustang.
Now, tell us a little bit what kept you from getting out there today.
We were so fast that we just thought we'd just, hang back and create some drama for tomorrow, if you believe that. Now, we've had a problem since yesterday. We were making great progress. Everything was going good. Got up to 217. Everything was, relatively easy. And then all of a sudden, we felt like we have a shock problem or something inherent in the car that we just can't find. I mean, it was a struggle for me to run 209 this afternoon, and I couldn't run wide open all the way around, and so. Just being cautious, we say, hey, you know what, let's stop for the day, let's bring this thing in, let's take the car apart, let's see if we can't find something, because it just wasn't making me feel good. I've had enough laps around here, I know what it should feel like, and I wasn't getting that feeling, and we struggled. We changed a lot of things, and nothing made any difference.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing you out there tomorrow. You'll be easy to spot in that orange number 40. Guys?
Well, and one other thing we probably should point out, and this will get Mario back out on the track maybe in about 10 years. Parnelli's 73, Mario's 63. I think that makes Parnelli now the oldest former winner to do laps in a race car out here at the Speedway. We'll track that one down for you. Stay with us. We'll get an update on Phil Giebler's situation when we come back. Well, if you were with us a little bit earlier, you know that 3 laps Phil Giebler was doing very well on his qualifying run, but on the 4th one, it didn't go so well, and there is a lot of damage to that race car. Phil is okay, but as you can see, he got the whole right side, then the back side, including the wing, the gearbox. Let's get an update from Jack Arute.
Well, fellas, if you're Target Chip Ganassi or you're Roger Penske or Andretti Green Racing, it's an open purchase order over at the parts trailer. But if you're Playa del Racing, well, you've got to be able to marshal your funds. The rear wing, of course, damaged, could be repaired, but not in time for tomorrow. Cha-ching, $30,000. Let's go inside as they continue to tear the car down. They've had to bring in a new gearbox. Cha-ching, another $85,000. When you start to take a look at all the work being done on the right side suspension and the left side suspension, keep in mind that for this team, this is a big economic hit. And this is a team that can't afford it. But then again, consider the fact that if you finish even last in the Indianapolis 500, the last time I checked, it was close to $200,000 to $225,000.
Yeah, but you still have all your other costs of keeping your team here the entire month and all. I mean, the cash register just rings when these happen. What do you think, about 150 here?
Well, I suspect it's probably around that number, but you know something? Everybody's a racer, and they're a racer at heart. They want to go race the Indianapolis 500. A lot of them have been here before, experienced it. They want to smell and feel it on race day, so I think they'll just get it in the show and worry about paying for it later.
Well, and remember, these guys are going to be working through the night because they have one shot tomorrow, 3 attempts. They've got to get the car ready for inspection, and then out on the racetrack, do some shakedown runs. They're going to be one tired bunch of crew, and we'll have to follow that story tomorrow. Stay with us. We've still got more coming your way from here at Indianapolis. All right, thanks, John. As there is the pylon, the lights have been turned out, but the 33rd spot is still up for grabs, and we'll fill that tomorrow and then start the final bumping process to see who will be in the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500. Let's check in with one of the drivers who would love to have a shot of making that field. He is with Brienne Pedigo.
Well, Marty, I'm with PJ Chesson, and we routinely see drivers walking around the garage down here looking for rides, seeing what's available the last week of qualifying. We've even seen Tony Stewart show up on a Sunday before the race. But PJ, there is a chance, maybe not, that you might get in a second car for Greg Beck?
There's a chance. I'm being told there's a chance, 1 in a million, whatever. But I also could end up becoming the president as well. That's kind of how I feel like my chances are at this point. But I don't know, maybe, last minute, some unfortunate things happen for Giebler, and some speeds are down with the PDM guys, so maybe it's gotten a lot easier for us to maybe stick a car in the show tomorrow. So I don't know, I'm going to go beat him up a little bit and see what he says.
Now, you mentioned you haven't had any seat time since last year's race. How does that make you feel going into the potential ride tomorrow?
Well, the Monte Carlo that I'm driving around like Indianapolis does not really get me ready, but I think you get in and knock the rust off. I think it'll come back pretty quickly, and we'll just see. I mean, you have to man up a little bit, and see what happens. So we'll see tomorrow if I can climb in there and either knock a wall down or put it in the show, one or the other.
Thanks, PJ. I don't know, Vince. PJ Chesson as president, that's a little bit scary, I think.
That is scary indeed. Standing here, though, with Dario Franchitti. You guys had a pretty attractive month of May, and it's your birthday today. What the guys were telling me, 44 today?
Yeah, that was what Danny Canaan thought last night. She had the 3 in the...
Oh!
Happy birthday!
Is this not remnants of Brian Herta's days also?
How did I miss that one?
Now you're just more delicious.
What flavor is that?
Lemon.
Lemon. It's got a little chocolate on it, too. That looks good.
Tastes good, but I tell you what, paybacks.
The payback. Well, and tell us, because there's a lot of history with pranks in this team.
Yes, there is, and that's actually the first one Marco's done, and the first one Danica's done. I mean, so the rookies are in trouble. TK, he's in trouble, but we'll get them back.
Now, what year was it that you took TK's very expensive bicycle, and when he was on an ESPN show, and I think you and a couple of the other teammates went in, and while he was on live, and he could see you on off camera, and you sawed his bike in half, I believe.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago now. He was really upset. Until I paid him for the bike, he was real upset. Then he took it as a joke, but up until that point, he was a little bit upset. But
yeah, well,
don't worry.
Yeah, I know you will. Hold on just a second here. Let me make sure that's some good stuff. That looks good. Yeah, good stuff. Hey, happy birthday.
Do you have anything?
I had nothing to do with it. I had nothing
You know the best part about this thing? Ashley's just eating it right off of his face.
I don't think that's such a bad thing, is it, guys?
No, I thought that was very humorous. I mean, he's sitting there covered in it, and she's going, this is pretty good. I like this. All right, we've got to head to break, and we'll show you a replay of this. Here it is in slow motion, and happy birthday. Look at Marco. Man, he was zeroed in. Oh, paybacks. They're coming. It is the greatest spectacle in racing, and tomorrow qualifying for the 91st Indianapolis 500 concludes with Bump Day. Indianapolis 500 qualifying telecast presented by GoDaddy.com. Bump Day tomorrow on ABC at 1 Eastern and ESPN2 at 5 Eastern time. All right, who are the winners to start 23rd or worse in Indy 500 history? There's a list of them right there, and the one you're probably most familiar with is Lone Star JR.
Amazing to think that those guys ran those cars back then. That's why I used to always say that's when the tires were skinny and the drivers were fat.
Ray Haroon in 1911, it only took 6.5 hours to run the 500 miles. And he did it in a car that you wouldn't want to ride 5 minutes in. Stay with us. We'll close things out when we come back. 3 days down, 1 to go for qualifying for this year's Indianapolis 500. Let's set the 32 that are currently in the field. We have 1 spot remaining to be filled. Take a look at the top 11. This was from pole day last Saturday. Starting it off with Elio Castroneves at 225 and change, all the way down through Michael Andretti's 222.7 miles an hour.
You know, when you look at those laurels, you actually see a lot of people that have the potential for winning this race. And the last 12 that we have here, we're looking at much the same way. A lot of champions in there. Obviously, with Buddy Lazier winning this race before, he knows how to get the job done. It's going to be a very competitive race on race day, Marty.
And these are the qualifiers that came into today. And you can see it was led by Roger Yasukawa with a very nice 222.6 miles an hour. And all the way down through Roberto Moreno's 216, Jimmy Kite at 214. I think both of us will admit those speeds are vulnerable. Let's talk about who could be a factor tomorrow. We still have, I think, what, 5 combinations possible?
Well, you got Phil Giebler, and we obviously heard from P.J. Jones. I think you're in a situation right now where those guys might come out and have to find some speed. But I do think those last 2 speeds are very vulnerable at this point in time.
And we also heard that P.J. Chesson is still looking for a ride. And what about A.J. Foyt? If he sees an opportunity to stick one in there, as he said, especially if he doesn't like the guy, he's going to do it. So that's going to wrap it up for us, as we're going to be waiting to see you again tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern on ABC, and then again at 5 Eastern on ESPN2 for Indianapolis 500 Bump Day, telecast presented by GoDaddy.com. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Coming up next, it's the 2007 WPBA Great Lakes Classic. For our entire ESPN crew, I'm Marty Reed. Thanks so much for joining us till we meet again tomorrow.